for folks who aren't able to join.
Mm. So should we introduce ourselves again or just keep going?
I think let's keep going.
I'm Vineha. I'm a peer advisor in the psychology department. I'm a senior now, majoring in psychology and minoring in sociocultural anthropology.
Hey everyone, my name is Aditi. I'm a fourth year cognitive science major with a neuroscience emphasis, and I'm also a new peer advisor for the department.
All right, so we are going to, I'm gonna be the moderator, so I'm just going to say questions, and then Aditi and Vineha as students will try and answer them, and then if there's something that they can't answer or need help with, then us staff advisors will jump in and try and help. Okay, so the first question is, what's it like majoring in psychology or cognitive science?
Well, as a senior now in psychology, I've really enjoyed majoring, choosing this major. As a psychology AB degree student, there's a lot of flexibility in the courses that you can take. So I've really enjoyed that aspect of like really being able to choose exactly which courses I think will benefit me for the career that I want to go into. And also the flexibility to take courses that like I wasn't super sure if I was like that interested in biological psychology, but then I decided to try it out because I had the option to, and then it turned out that I really enjoyed the class. So that's something that I've liked about the AB degree. And then in terms of like the support and the professors, I found that literally every single professor that I've had has been super approachable. I always felt like I could talk to them about like coursework or like how to plan for graduate school, what kind of careers are available, and like how to get involved in research. So there's a lot of support in the faculty and of course with the staff advisors that are here. And also within like all the students that are, there's like a ton of psychology majors. So I feel like there's a lot of like student support as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Vineha mentioned. Psych is probably one of the biggest majors at Davis, so I don't think it'll be hard to find like fellow students like in your own classes, especially if you start off taking some lower division like requirements for like cognitive science or psych, because you'll find a lot of people with the same majors. But yeah, I've always found all the professors are really nice, really genuine. They're super willing to talk about their own research and like how to get involved, and just in general, like how to figure out like what kind of career you're interested in. And I think another great thing about psych and cognitive science is like there are so many options that of what you could do with your degree in terms of like what career you want to go to. And I think like we kind of see people wanting to go into like almost every field you could think of, like research, academics, medicine or other health professions, like social work, therapy. There's like really like a lot of options, which I think really helps.
Okay, as far as remote classes go, students want to know if they should be preparing for virtual classes, and if so, how?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I mean, I would just say, I don't know if there's necessarily anything to do to prepare until you have like your syllabus and kind of figure out like how your classes are going to be structured. I'd say get familiar with Zoom if you aren't already, just because that'll just be something you're using for sure, no matter what. Yeah, I guess to prepare, I would just say like, make use of like whatever virtual resources your professors are offering, like remote office hours or like discussion sections. That a lot of things might be more optional now, but I would still recommend like taking advantage of that if you can and if it works with like your time zones and stuff, because I think like that will be the best way to still get like one-on-one help from professors or TAs and really still kind of get that individual feedback for your courses.
Yeah, I think it's also really important to continue to like keep a schedule or like a routine going, because like when you're on campus, like there's just like there's a lot of I guess there's just like you know, you have to like account for like travel time. You have like these different parts of your day that you're like I guess you're going through. Whereas when you're at home doing remote learning, it's really easy to just like roll out of bed and then you like start your day going to class. And I feel like it's really important to keep a schedule, like an actual schedule going, and kind of treat it like you are going to campus in a sense, even if you are just rolling out of bed. Because I found like after doing summer session and having a lot of like back-to-back classes, I got pretty worn out if I didn't like have a set routine to follow. So that's like one way I guess you could prepare, because it is kind of exhausting if you're like in front of your computer screen for extended amount of time. So make sure you're like taking breaks, like walking around a little bit, just kind of like the things that you would do if you were on campus. Like you'd be walking from class to class, you'd probably like talk to people like your family or like your friends or whoever's around, just to like kind of imitate the same kind of learning environment, to help you like not feel so like tired or fatigued from being in front of the screen. That's something that worked for me.
All right. How will faculty and staff be supporting students virtually? Will it be easy to get into contact with professors if we are struggling with the material?
I mean, I think I kind of touched on it, but I feel like from my experience during like spring quarter, and now what I've seen from like my upcoming classes for the quarter, all the professors are super willing to like accommodate for any sort of like situations. I have classes that are both like asynchronous and synchronous, so I kind of have seen that variety in like just among the psych department. I think in terms of getting in touch with professors, that kind of depends class to class, but most people will talk about it in their syllabus, whether they're more comfortable with email or using Canvas to get in touch with them, or if just making an appointment for office hours and things like that is the best way. But yeah, I recommend definitely utilizing office hours. That's something I didn't use during my first like 1 or 2 years, because I don't know, I had this idea it's like mostly lower div classes, and it was also really intimidating thinking you're going to talk to a professor in classes that are generally larger sizes your first few years. But I would say like even all your professors are really willing to help, and that's kind of where you'll get smaller sizes when you go to office hours, because you aren't going to be sitting in a big lecture hall, or sitting in a big lecture hall. You won't be on a Zoom call with like 100 people. You'll be in like a smaller setting where you can really get to know the professors. So yeah, I would definitely recommend using those.
Yeah, and I think if you're like nervous about meeting with professors in person, then Zoom is like a great way to like transition to that, because you can do like most professors are like most all the professors that I've had in the last like summer session and spring quarter all had a lot of availability through Zoom office hours and through email. So I think like the support is still definitely as strong as it was when we were in person. So that's really great to have.
I'd also say that for staff advising and for peer advising, you will have academic advising available to you every weekday. Most of the business hours that, are 9 to 4 p.m. So you can see the specific hours that were available on our website. But you can, if you are in need of something and you don't know who to reach out to, you don't know what your resources are yet, then I would say that academic advising is a great starting point, and we can help connect you and make sense of what kind of solutions are available to you.
Yep, definitely. All right. What is really the difference between psychology and cognitive science?
That's a good question. And I think it's a question we get a lot. There's definitely a lot of similarities between the two. And I think in terms of like the careers that you can go into after graduation, they tend to be pretty similar, but the major requirements do have a lot of differences as well. I would say like I guess I can talk from like my own experience. Like I used to be, or like when I came into Davis, I was a cognitive science major. And then I decided to switch to psychology, mostly because I wanted a little bit more flexibility in the courses that I could take. And I think as someone who wants to go into counseling, I wanted to be able to take more like social and personality psychology courses, and those would actually count towards a degree if I did the Psych AB. So that was like what informed my decision. It was mostly like the type of psychology I was interested in. I guess you could say like the discipline that I was of psychology that I was focused or wanted to focus in was more of like the social side of things. So that's kind of like maybe one of the differences. Also in terms of like if you do look at the degree requirements, you'll see that the CGS major takes classes like from linguistics, philosophy, neuroscience, and if you're doing the computational emphasis, you would take some computer science classes as well. So I think one way like you could decide if you aren't sure between the two majors is looking at the different courses that are offered and deciding based on like what seems interesting, because I think in the long run, a lot of like opportunities are kind of overlap between the two. So it really just comes down to like what you're most interested in.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. So I'm a cognitive science major, and I always knew I was like kind of interested in both. I was interested in psychology from high school, but I also was like was pretty interested in neuroscience, but I kind of wanted to do both without being like an NPB major, which NPB is like neurobiology and behavior for those of you that aren't familiar. But so I knew I kind of wanted to do both, and the cognitive science major would allow me to do that in one degree. So that was kind of my reasoning for choosing cognitive science. But yeah, I will say it's definitely pretty similar. There are overlaps between the degrees, especially depending on what emphasis you do. For example, I'm the neuroscience emphasis, so I definitely have more STEM courses, especially in lower division, and that kind of overlaps in terms of the more science-focused psych classes with like the psych with the bio emphasis. So there are definitely overlaps here and there, but I will say like some degrees, especially the computational emphasis for cognitive science is a lot more specialized in terms of like, that's really people who are looking in to go, who are also interested in computer science, and that sort of overlap between studying like the mind and behavior and in terms of like computation. So there definitely are like subtleties depending on the emphasis, like Vinay has said. So I would, yeah, again, recommend looking at the different course offerings to kind of see like what you're interested, maybe depending on what career you're looking to go into. And I would also say for first years, there's definitely a lot of overlap in terms of like the lower division requirements. So it may not make a huge difference during your first year in terms of like what degree between psych and cognitive science. But definitely like looking at upper division courses that you'll have to take later will kind of give you a better idea as to like what your degree is focused on.
Okay, and then Aditi has to go because she's moving. So we'll say goodbye to her. Thanks for your help.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Aditi.
All right, good luck. All right, so for the next question, Vineha, you're on the spot. How did you decide on the degree path you wanted to take?
Okay, I guess I kind of touched on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's other factors, because I chose specifically the AB over the other emphasis, like the biology and the quantitative. I mean, again, it's the same, like the flexibility was a major factor, being able to take, like kind of choose, you get to choose like which two like core groups, like if you look at the degree worksheet, which two core groups you like want to emphasize in, or not emphasize in, but take more classes in, and then the other two you just take one course. So I guess like the flexibility aspect was the main main factor for me. And also like when I was choosing my major, which was like 2 years ago, at that point, like I wasn't totally sure if I wanted to go like into research or if I wanted to go like, you know, become like a mental health clinician and do more of like the hands-on work. And I think choosing the AB for me just meant that I could do like both options, or like I could go to grad school for either one of those like later on. And so yeah, I think that was another reason I wanted to choose the the AB, or like why I chose the AB was because I wanted to keep all the options available to me. And it definitely has benefited me now that I'm applying to grad school. And I do see that I have like a lot of options available.
All right.
I can speak to that one a little bit too. So I am not an alumna of UC Davis. However, I did get my degree in psychology, and it was a long and winding road to come to that decision for myself. I had tried several different majors before I landed on psychology, and ultimately I was a senior in undergrad, and I was unhappy with the major that I was in. And I was already working as a student employee in my campus's advising office. And I had this opportunity to try out a counseling type of job through that. I really enjoyed it. And I had really enjoyed taking psychology when I was in high school. And so it just seemed like my misadventures from other majors was kind of leading me towards this good fit in psychology. So through process of elimination and reflecting on the things that I liked, that's how I landed on psychology. And it did delay my graduation because I was already a senior when I went into psychology, but I loved it and I never regretted switching to psychology.
All righty. What's the next question? Oh, what classes do you feel have helped you the most? Are any of those classes I can take in my first year at UC Davis?
That's a good question. There aren't too many like lower division psychology, psychology courses. I mean, there's the prereqs, but those are, outside of the department. But like for first years who are trying to take like which classes you should definitely take Psych 41, which is the research methods class. You'll need to take that class to get into any of the other like upper division courses. But that class has been super helpful in like when I was like in a research lab or anytime I have like articles to read for courses to just understand like what the article is saying or like what the statistics mean. So that class is super important for first years to take. In terms of like upper division coursework, I've definitely enjoyed all of my upper division classes. I don't think there's been any that I like wasn't interested in. But the ones that have, I think, benefited me most for like my own career trajectory have definitely been abnormal psychology, which is Psych 168, personality psychology. I really liked social and personality development, and cognitive psychology, which was kind of a surprise to me because I just wasn't expecting to like that class, or just I wasn't sure if I'd be interested. But that's what's really nice about the psychology major. I think any of like the emphases that you choose, like you're able to take a lot of different courses from the different psychology disciplines, so you might find something that you really like that you weren't expecting to like.
Okay. Do you have any tips on how to do well in psychology and cog sci classes?
I'm just thinking, I was expecting a panel, but anyways.
Sorry, you're on the spot.
Okay.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you. I'm just trying to think of like some, like I finished all my psychology like requirements a while ago because I'm going into my 4th year now, and now I'm just kind of like wrapping things up. So it's actually been a little bit since I've taken a psych class, which is kind of funny to say. But definitely tips. I would, you're gonna have a lot of reading, I think, for most of your psych classes. So the biggest thing is to just stay on top of the reading. Make sure that you're not falling behind, because lectures are pretty like, I feel like most of the courses are pretty lecture heavy. So it's good. So like basically from my experiences, professors will like usually go over the topics that you've already, like they expect you to have read the course, like read the, I guess, class material, or like the things that you're going to cover in class the day before. So it's really important that you're like keeping up with the reading on your own. And then when you go to class, the expectations that you've kind of read that stuff and now you're going over it in more detail. So definitely keep up with your readings. I think going to office hours is super important for psych majors to really get involved, because I think those are the times where I've been able to find, like going and talking to professors has helped me find research opportunities and sometimes even get into labs with those like specific professors, because you're showing interest in the research that they're doing. I don't know if there's any tips that are just like specific to psychology. I think just being organized is super important. Like communicating with your professors is always important for any class at Davis. And if you're looking for research opportunities or internship opportunities, definitely like coming to advising is a good place to start, but also asking your professor, because they might have resources, especially if you're interested in like specifically the research that they're doing or that kind of discipline, then they're the best resource.
And for people who came in after we announced it, we are going to go until 11:30 because this room got started late. So just letting you know. I also wanted to say that UC Davis is on a quarter system, which goes so much faster than the semester system. So just be aware of that. If you're a transfer student, you're probably going to have, I don't want to say a difficult transition, but it's going to be challenging. So just because the timeline is so different from your semester school. So just be aware of that and plan for that and make sure that you really keep on top of your work and that you don't fall behind. Okay, what's the next question? What would you say are the basic paths or options for a career in psychology or for a career in cognitive science? I think probably Stacy and Jillian would be the best ones to answer this.
Was it basic paths?
What would you say are the basic paths or options for a career in psych or cog sci?
Sure, I can say what I said in the other one. So they are both really broad majors that can lead to a huge variety of careers. So we won't be able to like specifically tell you specific ones, but I can give you an overview of like what to kind of start thinking about. So both of these majors deal with human behavior in at least some capacity. So careers that need that kind of understanding would be perfect fit. So those are things like teaching at all levels, so elementary through high school, even university, mental health fields, obviously therapy, social work, things like that. But also industry jobs that deal with human behavior. So human resources, HR for companies, marketing, understanding consumer behavior would be really important. Public relations, strategic communications, things like that. Having a good understanding of human behavior and emotions and how those impact people would all be really great. We also have some Bachelor of Science options. So for psychology, that would be the biology emphasis, and then cognitive science would be the neuroscience emphasis. Those Bachelor of Science options are really good preparation for medical school or other health fields. So occupational therapy, things like that. Also the cognitive science computational emphasis prepares you for more of a tech kind of job. So working with artificial intelligence or user interface, user experience design. Cognitive science is a really interdisciplinary major. So you're learning from a lot of different fields like psychology, neuroscience, computer science, other linguistics, things like that. So, you know, all of those things can lead to careers. But ultimately what I said in the last one is your major is only a piece of what can lead to a career. So all of your coursework, your internships, research experiences that you get, part-time jobs even, those all lead to insights of what kind of work interests you. So really pay attention to what you're learning in your courses that interests you and also doesn't interest you, and kind of use that as a stepping off point on doing your research into various careers that might lead to those things. So it's really important to stay open-minded and curious about what your interests are throughout college, but also throughout your life, because things change, your interests change, and everything you learn can lead to the next step in your career.
Yeah.
Stacey,
And I'm gonna add to that because really good advice for Jillian said that, you know, paying attention to what your values are and where your interests are, because as you're taking classes, as you're saying yes to opportunities and experiences, where you are now is probably not where you're going to land in a couple quarters or in a year or in 2 years. And that's natural. That's how it works. And it's just being open-minded and curious and observant that will lead you towards something that is worthwhile to you, something that you value. And I'm thinking of Vineha as an example because yes, counseling and therapy is a pretty common career outcome of psychology, but not everybody goes into psychology thinking that that's what they're going to do. And, you know, Vineha was mentioning that she really found that she was super interested in personality classes and social psychology classes. And, you know, those are the types of psychology classes that really lend to therapy and counseling. And that is indeed the path that she's looking forward to in graduate school.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think when I came in, I for sure didn't know what I wanted. Like, I knew that had interests in like helping people, and I wanted to, like, I was obviously interested in psychology because I chose a related field, but wasn't really sure exactly like how that would work out or like how to get to where I wanted to go. So I definitely had to try a couple of things, and like I actually came in as a computational cog sci because I really wanted to see if I like was even interested in like computers or whatever or technology, but still staying within like the psychology or like the social sciences, and then realized very quickly that that just wasn't really for me, and then slowly figured out that it was really the human aspect of cognitive science that spoke to me in the beginning, and then I was able to figure out that that's mainly psychology, and that's how I like have figured out over the course of like 4 years what exactly I want to do. It's definitely okay to change your mind.
And it's okay to come talk to us advisors if you have no idea what you want to do or what you came in as isn't what you want to do now. Like, we have conversations with students all the time about these things. So don't be shy.
Yeah, so we are your resource. You know, if you have all this information, you don't know what to do with it, we're happy to sit down with you in an appointment and kind of dig through all these experiences that you have and what do you really like. And then we can also connect you with other resources that we have on campus. So we have the Internship and Career Center. They have career counselors on staff that help students figure out what they want to do and also how to do that. So they, you know, once you do know what you want to do, they can help you out with, you know, writing your resume, writing your cover letters, doing the job search, things like that. We have pre-grad advising, pre-law advising, you know, we have all sorts of resources that we can connect you with as well.
Oh, also, I forgot to mention this, kind of a plug, because I'm the officer or one of the officers for the Psy-Chi Honor Society for psychology students. So after you've taken a certain number of psychology courses, like upper division courses, and you have a certain GPA, you can always join our organization. And we also provide a lot of resources for students and have like guest speakers. So if you're interested in that at some point, especially like transfer students, will be able to join pretty soon once they've taken some courses at Davis. So that's something to look out for at some point if you're interested.
All right, so we only have 2 more questions left. I have heard people talk about research and internships. Is this something I should be doing?
I really liked Simona's response in the last session. She said, absolutely, yes, there's no question about it, no ambiguity, do research and internships in at least once. You know, she said, we will oftentimes give you a question or an answer like we just gave for careers, where it's like, yes, do what you want. It's ambiguous, but this one is like, get experience, get, you know, even if you learn from doing something, that it's not what you want to do, that's great insight to have too. So yes, definitely find something that at least kind of interests you and give it a shot. And the only way you'll know is to try it out. So yeah, other people can add to that answer.
I'd say whether you choose an internship or a research opportunity or something else might depend more on how you reflect on your interests and what kind of career goals you already have. So if you wanted to, you know, go into business or marketing or, you know, maybe even like therapy or counseling type of stuff, there's other types of internships that might give you more tangible experiences than research or working in a lab. And that's not true 100% of the time, but it is what I would suggest looking at first. And then if you are really looking forward to a career path that involves a PhD, a PsyD, a doctoral program, or some other kind of graduate program that will involve research in the future, then most definitely try to gain a position in a lab through psychology or another department that, you know, offers something related to the research that you're interested in. And those conversations we are more than happy to have with you and advising if you don't really know where to start. But you can also explore the psychology website for research opportunities. For cognitive science, psychology is a major part of cognitive science, and so you can be checking for psych research opportunities there. But know that cognitive science involves many more departments that make it interdisciplinary. So you can always check for opportunities with linguistics, computer science, neurobiology, any of those departments that are related to cognitive science.
All right. And then our last question is, will there be research opportunities in psych and CGS next year with classes being online for at least part of the year? And how do I get started?
I'm just going to point out that Daisy, one of our other peer advisors, joined us, and if she wants to introduce herself, now would be a good time.
Hi everybody, my name is Daisy Robles. I'm a 5th year, double majoring in psychology and organizational sociology.
So did Simona say anything good about research next year in the other session?
So they did answer that. So once we post the recording, I think that would be really great to watch their response, because I won't be able to like really exactly replicate it. But they did say it'll really depend on the lab. So some labs are able to do things virtually. Our peer advisor, Emma, mentioned she's working in a lab over at the Center for Mind and Brain, that they are still accepting people. They are working remotely. Other labs don't have that opportunity. They do have to be inside the lab doing work. So those, they may still be accepting people, but it'll really depend on the capacity that they have and how much they can do training in the situation that we're in. So there are possibly opportunities. They may look a lot different this year, but it's still good to do your research. Alyssa put in the chat a link to our research page on our website. So we are, you know, any labs that do have opportunities, they do advertise them with us. So we can put them on our website or put them in the newsletter. I think we do both. So when we do know of opportunities, we do send them out to our listserv. So make sure you open the emails that we send to you and kind of pay attention to those. But yes, there will be opportunities. It'll just depend on the specific lab and what they're able to do in our situation.
And I would also encourage you to just look anyway. Don't let the prospect of online lab experience deter you from still looking into research opportunities that interest you if you are thinking about doing research. So we're not totally sure what's happening for winter in terms of being remote. We don't know what's happening for spring for sure. So it's possible that there's online lab opportunities, but it's possible that we'll be back on campus, by winter or spring. And so it's good to do that research now, like take a look at what interests you, express your interest, apply to those positions. And even if they don't have opportunities available because it's remote or they just don't have opportunities right now, they will have looked at your CV or your resume, or they will have read your email. So you will be a presence in their mind, and that is only a good thing.
If I can quickly add, like what Stacy said, I actually reached out to a professor back in spring quarter if I can work and do like research or do a lab with her, and she replied around like midsummer, and she's like, "Oh, for sure." So there's still opportunities out there to work with either a professor like doing independent research or with a lab. Like I would totally just like, reach out, because I mean the professors, they like the research that they're doing. So they'll be excited when they see that another student is also excited in the work that they're doing or the class subject. So yeah, there's still a lot of opportunities, and hopefully y'all can work around because everything's online and stuff like that. But y'all can either come to like a compromise, or you can do everything online. I'm currently doing independent research with a professor. Everything we're doing is online. A lot of using Box a lot, and downloading a lot of applications on a computer, but it's working out. So yeah, don't be hesitant because of what's going on right now. If you are genuinely interested, they will try to help you out.
I also want to add that if you are more interested in a non-research opportunity, you can find some information on the psychology website about doing internships related to psychology. Those resources are limited, and what is an additional resource that is great resource is the UC Davis Internship and Career Center. They are an office on campus that has a lot of workshops and career advising that's offered remotely while we're working from home, and it's definitely worthwhile checking them out and even attending the career fair that they have every single quarter, because internship recruiters also go to those.
All right, so that was the end of our questions. Do our panelists have anything else to say? Anything you want to add?
Just answered a question in the chat about taking 13 units and hearing that other people are taking 15 or 16. Taking 13 is totally fine. What we said in our advising appointments this summer with like individual transfer students was the university used to recommend to all transfer students taking 12 in their first quarter, but they have recently done research and found that transfer students that took 15 or 16 did a little bit better, if not the same, as students that took 12. So they started recommending that students take more in their first quarter because they didn't do worse. But you know yourself better than anyone else. You are not a statistic, you are a person. So, figuring out what you feel comfortable with taking. If you're transferring, most transfer students are coming from a semester system. This is a quarter system. It does move really quickly. If you want to take 12 or 13 in your first quarter to kind of get used to it and get used to taking upper division and also taking online classes, do so. Please pay attention to how you feel, and don't compare yourself to what your classmates or friends are doing, because they're a different person altogether.
And what that statistic doesn't take into consideration is people who are caretakers for others in their household, people who are living with a disability, people who have long commutes. So echoing what Jillian said, you do you.
I was a transfer student who came to UC Davis, and the first quarter was just bewildering and everything was so different. So winter quarter, I'm just going to tell you, transfer students will be much better for you. But fall, yeah, fall's a lot. So I would not have taken more than 12 units for myself personally.
I also came in as a transfer student. I think I also started off with like 13 units. And to me that was still like, whoa, because the quarter, like honestly, like the quarter system is so fast. Like today I still can't get used to it. So I would recommend taking it a little slow, just getting used to the rhythm, especially since y'all have a lot of midterms. It's hard to get used to. It's a lot of midterms. So yeah, I would suggest taking it slow, but if you feel comfortable taking 15 more units, like go ahead, you know, you can always like do like a early drop as well. Like you have options if you decide to take more units or less units. So yeah, and if you can always talk to us about doing part-time as well. I know some students also need that. So yeah, just anything that you feel comfortable with is what I would stress.
All right, well, I need to get off of here, so I'm gonna go. But it was nice talking to everybody, and we'll see you in the office at some point or on Zoom. All right.
I know
bye.
we didn't get to everybody's questions. You all had really good questions, some submitted in advance, some in the chat. So we will be sending out the link to the other event, which you're welcome to take a look at. Some of those questions may have been answered there. And we'll also be sending out some answers to these questions that we didn't get to address today. So don't fear if your answer wasn't addressed. And you can also reach out to us anytime. Let's see, shall we?
The email address in the chat. So we have psychadvising@ucdavis.edu for psych major questions. And then we have cogsci advising@ucdavis.edu for cognitive science students and major related questions. So our peer advisors check those, and they do tag things as staff if staff do need to answer them. So we check those as well. So we're paying attention throughout the week to those email inboxes. And yeah. So if we didn't get to answer anything, yeah, feel free to send us an email.
Yes, and thank you, Alyssa, for sharing our website. I'll also mention it's generally good to email those mailboxes, the psych advising and cog sci advising mailboxes instead of our individual mailboxes, because if one of us is out sick for a day or a week, that way it's going to someone who's checking, we check those shared mailboxes every day. So rest assured, we are checking those, as Jillian said. Those are generally the best way to reach the correct person in our team.
I'm also going to put a link to the existing FAQ that we have on our website, so you can scope those out too, in case there's an answer to your question before you email it.
Just wanted to add, we also have a drop-in today for any students that want to talk to peer advisor from 1 to 4. If you click on the website link, you'll see our drop-in link, and then you can sign up.
So you were lagging a little bit. Kind of sounded like a robot a little bit, but I got the gist. It's totally okay. Peer advisor drop-in hours is what Daisy was talking about. So our peers will be on drop-in hours, I think this afternoon. So there's a link to it on the advising link that Alyssa put in the chat. So you can see what the drop-in hours are and how to join, put yourself on the wait list, and our peers are there to answer your questions over a Google Hangout is how they're doing the peer drop-in hours.
All right, well, I think we'll wrap this up. Thanks so much for being flexible with us today. I know that it might have felt disappointing when you couldn't get into the one we initially advertised, and we tried to, as quickly possible, make this overflow room and make it happen, and we did. So yay, thanks for hanging out with us and learning more about your majors. Is there anything else that you need to announce, Melina?
No, we're just really excited to be meeting you in our virtual spaces, and we look forward to getting to talk with each of you more as the academic year goes on.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great first day of classes tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.
Sorry, Daisy.
I have a question for staff. One second.